SMM has just opened the representative office in Indonesia last month, right? So what were the considerations?
Firstly, and actually this action to move into Indonesia has been a lot of years. Actually, it's before COVID-19. But we took into actions after COVID and since 2023. And the reason is very simple because, Indonesia is a country with a rich resource of nickel and aluminum and tin and coal and bauxite, something like this. And so we are seeing a lot of Chinese investment is coming to this country and to establish the whole supply chain for this industry. And I think it is really a good opportunity for the new energy battery supply chain to be localized here. And also, SMM has already been specialized in this industry for like nearly 30 years. So actually, when we talk to a lot of clients in Indonesia, we get some interesting feedbacks from them. Everybody thinks and they can check the global commodity price, and but they can not get any price tailored to this market, like the logistic cost and the premiums in different regions, and they can get the nickel future price in London or nickel other physical price from Shanghai, but they think it doesn't actually reflect the cost and the real supply and demand in this country. So that's why we start to deep dive into this market, and we established our office. So our target is to have to establish an ecosystem here, and just like what we have been doing in China for 25 years, and to publish the benchmark in local, not the Chinese benchmark, but Indonesia benchmark. And we have already organized events to cooperate with Ebony, organize some critical mineral conference events, and in June this year, welcome everybody to participate. And also we are doing not only the mineral anymore, we are extending to the downstream. So for the next steps, I think we are looking for more opportunity to extend to other commodity like aluminum and the tin and the copper, something like this.
As you mentioned, Indonesia has abundant of reserve of critical minerals in Indonesia, one of which is nickel. Indonesia is one of the largest producers of nickel in the world. So how do you see the Indonesians' role in the global supply chain?
Firstly, and like you mentioned, and Indonesia has already been an important part of the global nickel supply chain, accounts for like 60 to 70. If my memory is correct, the number should be around 65 in 2025.
So over half, right?
Over half, and also killing other capacity in outside of Indonesia. And we are now seeing Indonesia government carry out a lot of positive policy over the past 10 years to stimulate the local investment, to localize the supply chain, not only into the mining, but also in the processing, as well as we are seeing a lot of smelter, they are extending to the downstream, like PCAM production. So, and it's not only the nickel supply anymore, it's about the whole nickel supply chain, and stainless steel production, and also EV production maybe in the future, and or the battery material production in the future as well. So I think it's quite important for the world.
Okay. You know that recently Indonesia's government is also considering to cut or to curb the production of nickel ore. So how do you see this policy?
Firstly, I think we have to think about this from different angle. So if from the perspective of nations, it's about the policies carried out by the government. They do really want to support the local development. Not any government, they do want to develop at the cost of environmental damage, and everybody wants to have a quality and sustainable development in the long run. And I think it's a good policy to support the nickel price, but we have to think about the balance, because overmine will cost over like I mentioned, environmental damage, but also the weak nickel price. But if limited mining will cause as well as the damage to the interest and in the investment here, and also the promotion of other investment from other country. So it's a balance, and as well as if we see a higher nickel price, that will be weaken the competitiveness of the NCM material versus to the LFP material. Yeah, so, but this is a really hard question for the government to balance the future and the economic growth in the short term.
So you see that this policy could lead the long-term sustainability for this industry, right?
Yeah.
But what will the impact for the global supply chain? As we know, the nickel is, the demand, is rising, driven by the electric vehicles, batteries, and the other applications. So what will happen to this global supply chain if the supply of the nickel ore is reduced?
Because, since, like we mentioned, Indonesia has already accounts for over 60% of the supply. And the rest of the supply in other countries, some of them have a lower production cost. Some of them has already suspended operation. It's really hard for them to recover in a short term. So I think if the cut the production, that will do a benefit to the local environment protection. And secondly, I think as long as the Indonesia government guaranteed the interest of the investment from outside of Indonesia, that will be no problem for the supply chain in here.
How do you see the impact of Indonesians' consideration for curbs the nickel ore productions to the investment from the other countries to the industry of critical minerals, especially or particularly for nickels?
Sorry, could you please?
What do you see the impact of investment for the investment in Indonesia, especially in nickel industry?
Firstly, and I think Indonesia government over the past 10 years and made a very good policies. And they are the governments who make a lot of attractive and friendly and supportive policy to attract to investment from other countries, mostly from China as well as other countries, and also provide a lot of subsidies and also the infrastructure in Indonesia has already been developed very much better than before. So and now all the Indonesia and I think the government is considering to how to extend it to the downstream, because if we look into the population, and I think Indonesia, if my memory is correct, has the fourth biggest population in the world, following like China and India and the United States, and which means it has strong benefits for the demographic dividend, because the average age of the population is no more than 30 years old. So that would be a very strong potential market for the consumer in the future, not only for the EV, but also for home appliance and for the property market. So yeah, and the policy is very supportive for all of this to localize in this industry. And from the other hand, and I think Indonesia government, they do understand what's the essence of the wealth of nation. Just like Adam Smith mentioned in his book, The Wealth of Nation. And the real wealth of the country is not only about how many foreign currency or how many dollars you do have but it's all about how much manufacturing capability do you have. So, and I do understand I think the Indonesian government, they do understand how to stimulate the local industry to improve the local manufacturing capability.